Good afternoon. Welcome to the Comparative Health Outcomes Policy and Economics, or CHOICE Institute, information session for our PhD program in Health Economics and Outcomes Research, or HEOR. Today, we are going to provide an overview of the CHOICE Institute, an overview of the PhD program structure, the application process, and conclude with question and answer. For introductions, I'm joined today by several CHOICE faculty and a current student. So today we have with us Dr. Anirban Basu, who is the Sturgis Family Endowed Director of the CHOICE Institute, as well as Chair of the Admissions Committee this year. We also have Dr. Dave Veenstra, who is Associate Director of the CHOICE Institute and Professor in the program. Next up, we have Dr. Josh Carlson, Associate Professor in the CHOICE Institute and Acting Graduate Program Director. Then there's me. I'm Marina Gaino, and I'm the Graduate Program Manager for the CHOICE Institute. Next up, we're joined by Ashley Davis, who's a program coordinator for CHOICE. And last but not least, we have Boshen Zhao, who is a fourth-year PhD student in the CHOICE Institute. So who are we? What is CHOICE? So our mission is that we are a global leader in generating knowledge to improve individual and population health through transformative learning, research, and dissemination of the effectiveness, safety, and value of medical products, services, and policies. Our mission is guided through three key pillars of research, training, and service. Our research goal is to develop innovative methods and generate actionable evidence about the effectiveness, safety, and value of medical products and services that improve decision-making in healthcare as well as policy. In the training space, our goal is to provide transformative training in health economics, outcomes research, and policy analysis to meet contemporary healthcare challenges, both regionally, nationally, and globally. Lastly, our service pillar is for us to be a leading resource on the effectiveness, safety, and value of medical products and services by providing expertise and facilitating collaborations at the regional, national, and global level. With that overview in mind, I turn it over to Anirban Basu to continue with the presentation.
One thing from the beginning I would start is that one of the unique feature that we have at the CHOICE Institute is the physical proximity of all our faculty and our students, which I think is a very important part of mentoring and teaching. Here on the third floor in the Health Sciences building at the University of Washington, there's a Department of Pharmacy. And as you can see in this space, all of our CHOICE faculty are close together. The grad room is right next to us on the same floor, so we interact with our grad students quite continuously. And then the postdoc room is in the next building. The Institute has about 13 core faculty members, all appointed in the Department of Pharmacy, and about 6 adjunct professors throughout the University of Washington. We are also in the process of hiring 2 new assistant professor faculty this year. Besides these, we have a very rich network of affiliate faculty spanning many different industry, research organizations, and other universities. These faculty are not for namesake. They are actually actively engaged with our program. They mentor our students, they deliver lectures in our classes, and have a continuous interactions with the program. Just a brief snapshot of our where our PhD students go. Historically, about 1/3 of our PhD students graduate to go to academia, 1/3 go to industry, and 1/3 go to other research organizations. Here are some of the names of our, we would say, famous alumni that have graduated from our program over the years. The Institute's research portfolio, especially among the faculty, mostly spans three broad areas. The first is health economics, dealing with methods, methods and theory in microeconomics, policy analysis, machine learning, causal inference, cost effectiveness analysis, value of information analysis, and the application spans a variety of disease states and other research areas. The second is outcomes research, including dealing with both observational and claims data methods, pharmacoepidemiology, evidence synthesis and meta-analysis, and benefit risk assessments. And the third one, our policy evaluation, and applying a variety of policy evaluative methods to kind of answer relevant healthcare policy questions in the US. The Institute has a very strong emphasis on maintaining and improving diversity in our student pool. We also have a diversity endowed graduate fellowship, which is a supplemental fellowship that we award to students that have deep personal experience with the connections to diverse cultures. In general, our diversity statement or mission is kind of invoked on every decisions that we make on hiring, whether students or faculty or staff, so that we can not only invoke or not only create an environment of diversity, but also have the culture to of inclusiveness that would kind of pervade on all aspects of the institute. The students in our program do take leadership role throughout their tenure in the program. That includes leading the ISPO chapter, to sitting on various committees at the departmental, at the institute, and the school level. We think these leadership opportunities are extremely important in the development of a PhD student, and we try to give ample opportunities for students to get those experiences through these committees. The Institute also has a wealth of data trove, starting from the IBM Market Scan database, the CM Medicare, the Trinitex platform, which has both claims and EMR database, and some restricted access to HRS Medicare and other platforms. Students use these data for their dissertation, and also they also sometimes go out and get publicly available survey and other data and use them for dissertation. You can find a lot more about the Institute, all the research that's going on, all the faculty's research through these annual reports that have been posted on the website for the last several years. And you can get a really sense of the breadth and the depth of the activity that's going on. Next, I'm going to turn our attention to the PhD program here. So we do, as I said, offer a master's and a doctoral degree in health economics and outcomes research. I'm going to talk mostly about the PhD program in HEOR today. So our PhD program prepares students to become independent scientists and leaders in health economics and outcomes research. Currently, we have 18 PhD students across all the years. We have 12 PharmD MS fellows and 2 post-PhD scholars. Now, they all interact together. They take seminars together. They attend some of the same classes. So there's a lot of nice kind of milieu across different types of graduate program students in the institute. The field of study in HEOR spans, it's an interdisciplinary field and mainly spans field like health economics, decision sciences, biostatistics, epidemiology, clinical trial design and analysis, and health policy. And students are expected to take courses in each of these areas, have preliminary exams cover some of these expertise through exams, and then build on one or two or three of these areas towards their dissertation. The pedagogical part of the program consists of courseworks that can be divided into these four components. There is a set of core courses, then there's a set of electives, then there are a requirement for attending a certain number of seminars, and then there is independent research and dissertation credits that you take working with faculty one-on-one as you go along the program. Here is a list of some of the courses that are core in our program. The total minimum credit requirements is 118, but a bunch of that comes from independent study and taking the seminars, and also working with your faculty on your dissertation. And then the rest of it, besides the core and those, comes from electives that you are free, and you work with your advisor or mentor to select the type of electives you want to take throughout your graduate program. So here is a kind of a brief outline of your progression to the doctoral degree. When you come in, you are immediately assigned to an academic advisor, and that advisor helps you navigate through the courses that you could take in your first couple of years, things that can help you get acclimated to a new city, a new program, and a new university. In the first 2 years, the goal is to complete the core courses and pass the preliminary examinations that are required to proceed in the PhD program. And then you also kind of start the process of thinking about potential dissertation research ideas. The summer quarter after the second year is really the idea you start exploring potential dissertation topics, explore different data sources available. There's also the summer quarter that often a lot of the PhD students do their internship. We have involvement of a large corporate advisory board and other connections that we channel and provide or give the information to our students of where internships are available. And that includes not only in industry, but also other research organizations like CDC, RTI, and students apply and end up kind of doing an internship if they want. And then the third year is really when you start selection of the dissertation topics. You have to do a short proposal that will be approved by choice faculty. And then once it's approved, you can establish a supervisory committee for your dissertation. The dissertation chair need not be the same as your advisor that was assigned to you when you came in. You have the flexibility to talk to many faculty and select your own dissertation advisor and form your own committee. And then the third year and the next year is really towards completion of your specialized coursework and the dissertation proposal defense. And then, hopefully many people graduate at the end of 4 years. Some people take 5 years, and you do your dissertation defense at the end, and then you graduate. In terms of funding, we guarantee the first 2 years of funding in the program. The next 2 or 3 years, the responsibility shifts to the students to remain funded. It's part of the goal of having the students, learn to be independent researchers and seek out funding. But so far, all of our students have been funded throughout their entire program tenure, uh, partly because after 2 years they end up with RAships on various grants going on, not only at the choice but also throughout the university, and throughout the other sister concerns that we have in the city of Seattle, like the Gates Foundation or the Kaiser Foundation or the VA HSRD. The appointments vary by students, but the core is a 50% FTE appointment. This is part of the fellowship or a research assistantship or a teaching assistantship. All of those are 50% FTE positions that covers your tuition. And the stipend varies by year, but it's approximately about $2,600 per month. And there are possible to get supplements or external work to kind of build on that. It also comes with health insurance. There is a possibility that you can transfer some of your credits from your previous degree. Also, UW actually restricts the number of credits you can transfer. I think it's about 6 credits, but it is possible to transfer some. And as I said, after graduation, there is this 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 split of where our alumni goes to work. All right, so I would stop here, and maybe we can take a few questions from the audience before I hand it over to Marina to talk about the application process. But before I do so, maybe I can ask my colleagues Josh, Dave, or Boshan to say if they want to add anything to what we just covered.
No, I don't think so. We've got some good questions here. I want to work through them.
Yep, let's see. I'm sorry.
The first one is what kind of quantitative skills or completed coursework do you expect the applicants to have coming into the program?
Yes, so I think this will come. So the things that will come up, I'm going to hold on answering them because I think it's coming up. So let's go to the next question.
Okay, do you want to just take clarifying questions now and then deal? Well, let's just go to the next one. How are academic advisors assigned? What are the considerations?
Right. So academic advisors are assigned based on the type of work that you have done before. So if you're coming on with an economics degree, you'll probably be paired up with somebody working in economics. If you're coming in with an epidemiology degree, it'll be paired up somebody with epidemiology. And again, as I said, this is an initial advisor pairing. This advisor is meant to really guide you towards taking your courses, navigating your first 2 years. But over the first 2 years, you're encouraged to go and talk to all the faculty and see their research through seminars and talking to them, and figure out who you want to work with it closely as you develop your dissertation.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I think that's an important consideration is the initial one is about academic advising, and that can be accomplished by all of our faculty. We do try to align interests coming in, but we're all, work closely with people as they come in, and it's about making sure they get through the academic portions. And then it's a process over the next 2 years to help the student identify their research advisor, who is going to be essentially the chair of their dissertation committee later on. And that can be the same person, but it often is not. And often that's one that's much more about research interests and that relationship that you develop over the next 2 years.
Let me read through these questions here real quick. Maybe Amin has a question about industry partnerships. Who are they? It's a lot of people: Genentech, Pfizer, Bayer, Roche in Europe.
Yeah.
We have 25 members on our corporate advisory board, so just a whole variety of different folks. The next question is from Yasna about, can you waive some classes if they already have taken a master's degree and stuff? And the short answer is yes, there's a mechanism for doing that, but we usually ask to look at the syllabus and see how you did in the class and compare them. Some students do waive. A lot of students will kind of maybe retake a class like epidemiology, and
but you can only waive a certain number of credits if you're coming from a university outside UW.
Yeah. Amin has another question about funding, first 2 years. I think you got at that, and also asked about, can you work at 0.5 FTE throughout your PhD? Well,
Yes.
if you mean outside of all of your training and everything, working half time, I think that would be a tall order, and it's not something we would recommend. People do work outside, doing other things like maybe you're a pharmacist or something. I think generally would recommend about a day a week max. I don't know, Boshin, did you want to comment on that at all?
Yeah, I think especially for international students, there's a requirement. You have to apply for something called CPT in order to work outside. And this, I think during the quarter, it has to be less than 20 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, this next question from Winnie, looks like. No, but didn't skip a question. No, it's a very good question. What are kind of the highlights and advantages of our PhD training compared to other PhD training at public health schools?
So I will start. One of the main thing, and I was actually, when I moved to UW, I was in the school Department of Health Services and Public Health. I think this training is a little bit more focused on HEOR, which combines both health economics but also decision sciences in one unit. There are not many programs like this in the country. The Harvard Health Decision Sciences comes close. There is a newly developed program in Stanford that comes close. The Johns Hopkins Health Policy does, their coursework is very similar to ours. But many other public health school health services, they either focus on health policy, some focus on health economics, but there is not much emphasis on decision sciences, which is also a very unique feature for us.
And I will just add, again, with that focus, you have a cohort that is coming together and working towards similar projects. It is a graduate program that's dedicated to this. All of the people that you come in with, you'll know forever. It's a smaller program than a traditional public health program, which is typically much larger. And there's a much more distributed faculty here. All of the faculty, again, are close contact, collaborating, and all with that sort of shared mission and vision about what we do and what this field is. So it's a tighter group than you're going to get in some larger school of public health somewhere.
Great. I see, is it Asheshe has had her hand up? I just wanted to make sure. Right. You want to go ahead?
Yeah, okay. I have a physics background, and I have previously worked on cancer research, actually. But then I'm curious to know if there is a place for someone with my kind of background, because recently I'm interested in understanding the interaction between macroeconomy and progression of a disease. For example, modeling the impact of the financial, modeling the financial fallout of a disease, more like fusing economics and epidemiology to study the complex effects of maybe a disease, kind of. So I am curious to know if there is a place for a background for physicists. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I don't know, maybe Anirban, you can take it. Full disclosure, my training's in medicinal chemistry, so we always welcome people in the field, but go ahead, Anirban.
Yeah, so no, I mean, we welcome people from various backgrounds. Interestingly, a lot of PhD economists did physics in their bachelor's degree. But I think one of the things that we will talk about in a later slide is that we do, and this is related to the next question too, about how many students we take in. So we do get about 60 to 80 applications each year, and we only take about 3 or 4 students. We admit about 3 or 4 students. And one of the things that we always look for is experience in outcomes research or health economic research. That's why we seldom take students after their bachelor's. Almost all of our students come in with at least a master's degree in some related discipline in health, whether it's biostatistics, health economics, epidemiology, health outcomes research, MPH, whatever it is, with some master's degree that basically has oriented them towards health economics and outcomes research kind of field. And so that when they join our PhD program, they can get the ball rolling immediately.
Okay,
Great summary.
thank you.
Thanks for the question. So just to coordinate here, there's about 5 or 6 questions here. They look fairly straightforward. I don't know, Josh, do you think you can just kind of, as graduate program director, do you want to just kind of go through these quickly?
Sure.
Starting with the number of students there.
Yeah, so yeah, I see that. So I think we'll go through these. Please feel free to continue to throw them in there. We'll come back and do more questions later once we do it, dive a little bit more deep. But let's go through these. So what kind of ethics courses related to cost effectiveness analysis are available during the core coursework in the first 2 years? So ethics is something that does come up as part of the cost effectiveness analysis courses, but just because basically we're dealing with societal decision making and weighing health, and so it is conversational. But there are also courses that you can take as electives, which if people are specifically interested in, for example, bioethics, those are available within. There is a department of bioethics in the School of Medicine that's available. But so it comes up as part of some of the courses, but there's not a dedicated course to that specifically. Some of us faculty are specifically interested in ethics and the cross section between ethical considerations, equity considerations, and cost effectiveness analysis. So it is something that we are aware of and discuss, but and so there's some in the courses, but then there's also the ability to dive deeper if needed. Are undergraduate and master's transcripts taken in equal consideration evaluating applicants? Well, so this is about kind of that experience. Master's transcripts, we look at the total package. But as Anirban just mentioned, most of our applicants do have more advanced training or very specific experiences that give them more than just a typical undergraduate degree. We do look at transcripts overall. The most recent stuff and the hardest courses, those are going to have the most sway on how we think about performance. So, for example, if we're going to weigh the master's. If you have both, we're going to look at what you've done in your master's because it's more recent and more applicable to what you're likely to be doing here. A policy regarding applicants' age. We do not have any specific policies regarding age, I think any time's a great time to do good research and be part of something. So no policies around age. We put choice program and the PhD program within the public health school. Can you apply to both? I don't believe there's any restrictions around applying to multiple programs, and it's not a bad idea to cultivate multiple opportunities. So, so that's fine. I think that was. I'm a current master's student and planning to apply for fall. Is it a requirement to have a master's degree to be eligible? No, there's no requirements there, and certainly that timing is often what we see for people. They're planning to finish up their master's degree and go directly into a PhD. That is something that is relatively common. So I'm going to just mark where we are right now. I think we'll come back to this and we can move forward, and we'll come back to these questions later on so we can proceed a little further.
Yep.
I think it's Tamarina. Marina, do you want to go through the application process and then?
Yes. Okay. So great questions so far. So I'm going to talk in more depth about our application process. So here we have an overview of our timeline for this year, which is very similar to most years. So our application deadline is December 15th. I believe it's a Wednesday. And we ask you to have all of your materials in by that date. There's a little bit of leeway, like if you have a recommender that maybe needs a couple more days to get their letter in, we're pretty flexible, but for the most part, all materials in by December 15th. And then we go through and we kind of collate all the applications, check to make sure like everyone's eligible for the program, et cetera, and check for completeness. And then what me and Ashley do is we prepare all the applications for the admissions committee, and we do a holistic review process. And then we would notify our top candidates for interviews in mid-January. And typically we would do at least what we did last year, and It might be a little different because we are still in a pandemic, but we did do like a first round of interviews and then narrowed it down a bit more for our final candidates. And as of now, we are planning to have our interview day remotely, but it could be in person, kind of TBD, depending on how things go in the winter with the pandemic. But traditionally, we do fly out our top candidates that are in the US to Seattle to have a day of on-campus interviews and get to see the campus, meet students, take you out to dinner, all of that fun stuff. So we'd love to be able to do that again. I think we've really missed that, but it's kind of up in the air. So that process occurs in January, and then we would make our final decisions for our who we would extend offers to by mid-February at the latest. And then all applicants have until April 15th to either accept or decline our offer of admission and our funding package that we offer. And then the program start date is late September, since we are on a quarter system rather than a semester system. So our academic year goes from late September to mid-June. So here we have kind of an overview of just what the general prerequisites for admission to the PhD program are. Kind of some typical academic backgrounds that we see, which we've kind of discussed a little bit, would be students with master's degrees in fields such as epidemiology, economics, statistics, or public health. And this is not like an all-inclusive list. We see applications from all over, but typically our competitive applicants are coming from these sorts of fields. And then additionally, those with professional degrees in pharmacy, medicine, or other health-related fields who are coming in with really strong quantitative skills. In addition, some other prerequisites would be the meeting all minimum graduate school requirements. So we are required to kind of adhere to a set of minimum admission requirements set by the graduate school at the UW, which includes a minimum grade point average of 3.0. That's the graduate school's requirement for your last 2 years of study. And then, but in our program, kind of more competitive applicants, I think, would have a 3.5 GPA or above. To point out, traditionally, we have used the GRE in our admissions process, but this is our second year of not using it. And we have foregone using it due to the pandemic. Most of our programs at the University of Washington have been doing this as well. And we are still evaluating as to whether we'll continue to use the GRE in our admissions process or if we will get rid of it completely. But for this admissions cycle, we're not requiring the GRE, and we're not even looking at GRE scores. They won't be taken into consideration at all. So if you submit them, me and Ashley will completely remove them from your application materials so that that's not considered by the committee whatsoever. And then for non-native English speakers, the graduate school does have an English proficiency requirement, which is outlined in detail if you search for UW Graduate School Memo 8. Our requirements are slightly higher than the graduate schools. So we require a TOEFL score of at least 100 or a minimum IELTS score of 7.5. However, if you have, there's a whole different variety of ways that you can meet the admissions, the English proficiency requirement. So if you have, for example, a bachelor's or master's degree from the US, that fulfills the requirement. If you have a bachelor's degree from a university where English is the medium of instruction, that fulfills the requirement as well. And there's a process for submitting proof of that to the graduate school, like a medium of instruction document. If you have questions about that, feel free to reach out to me because it can get kind of tricky with the English proficiency requirement. But yeah. Okay. So this slide, I've taken this from, we have a document on our website called just Considerations for Prospective Doctoral Graduate Students in Choice. And this is a list of all of the different items that our committee evaluates as part of the admissions review process. So as I mentioned before, we have a holistic review process, which means that we're not just looking at your grades or test scores or, one specific measure to evaluate whether you'd be a good fit for our program, but we're looking at you as a whole person, as a whole package, looking at your background, your interests, your experiences. And we've been doing holistic admissions for a few years now, and it's been really wonderful in improving the kind of the diversity of our program and diversity of experiences of our incoming students. So just to go through this list, considerations that we would take into account would be a strong record of academic achievement, emphasis on quantitative skills and critical thinking, prior experiences working in fields related to HEOR. So for example, like if you did an internship during your master's program that was very specifically HEOR focused, or a research project related to HEOR, be sure to include stuff like that on your resume, because that's very helpful for our committee to see like, wow, this person, they're not just learning about the field, they have invested time in learning more about it and having those experiences. We also look at leadership involvement, so like participation in various organizations at your school, like serving as maybe secretary of the ISPOR club at your university, that kind of thing. We take that into account. Demonstrated interest in HEOR, kind of similar to what I mentioned above. And then the ability to communicate effectively, both verbally and then in writing. So we would kind of look into your statement of purpose and your interviews for evaluating those items there. And then lastly, just the general potential to contribute to our learning environment at choice. And what items we use to evaluate those, what I mentioned in the previous slide would be your CV, your degrees, your grades, courses completed, letters of recommendation, publications, conference attendance, statement of purpose. We do have an optional diversity statement where you can speak to maybe any particular challenges that you faced in your life and how that has contributed to your your academic goals and who you are as a person, interviews, and then English proficiency. So some application tips. One I would definitely suggest is to contact your recommenders early. In the application portal, when you start your application, you can go in and designate who your recommenders will be by entering their name and their information and their email address. And as soon as you enter that in, it sends off an email to them to fill out the recommendation. We have a little quantitative assessment and then a spot to upload a letter. So you can do that as soon as you start your application, and I would recommend starting that now if you're thinking of applying to our program and for this upcoming cycle. And it's great to reach out to your recommenders before you enter them in, just so they're not surprised. They know that to look out for that email, and it's great to include kind of a cheat sheet about yourself. So maybe sending them an email with your resume, a link to the program you're interested in applying to, why you want to apply to this program, etc. We suggest submitting a strong, focused, and well-edited CV. And so this is really important as well, since we are not using the GRE test. We're really looking at the CV to help fill in some blanks of maybe your research skills, data analysis skills that maybe we would traditionally draw from your GRE scores. So be sure to highlight those items in your CV, as well as any relevant rotations, electives, courses, and presentations, as well as leadership experience. And with all of this, be sure to keep highlighting anything that's relevant to HEOR, and then any publications you've contributed to, even if it's not in press. So the application process itself, I've sent this before over email to everyone that's registered, but you apply through excuse me, you apply through the graduate school. And so you'll create a application profile on there. The type is graduate, and then our graduate program name, how to find it in the dropdown. It's pharmacy, health economics, and outcomes research, PhD. And then quarter and year would be fall 2022. And we do only admit to fall quarter. And just a reminder that mailed application materials are not accepted. If you send me anything by mail, I will probably have to shred it. So please don't do that. And anything for your application, you're going to be uploading electronically into the application. And as for transcripts, the way it works at the University of Washington is if you are admitted to the program, the graduate school then reaches out to you and asks you to submit your official transcripts to them, and then they verify the degree. So during the application process, you're only required to submit unofficial documents. We do, there are fee waivers available. They're sponsored through the graduate school. So financials need fee waivers, and then they have waivers available if you are a McNair scholar. So if you would like to request one, they need to be submitted at least 7 days before the application deadline. So that's really important to note. And there's just more information here, and I'll be sure to share this link out with everyone. Okay, so kind of pivoting back to Q&A. I know I see this, we have a bunch of questions in the chat, but
we can start, yeah, we can start back on where we left off, maybe.
Yeah.
So that was Salako.
Yes.
What are the chances of a pharmacist with public health infectious disease background, but with no actual health economics research background? So again, the pharmacist degree is a professional degree that you know, we hold out as being a good basis for entering our program. And with infectious disease, again, it depends on what specifically, but there's not a hard requirement around that. It depends on your interests and what you've done there. So there's nothing with, you don't need specific health economics research background, because it's sort of a shared field, right? So you can have fields that are related to it that will sort of give us a sense of your research history and research experiences, which will help us make a judgment about that. Is prior publications in HEOR related areas a requirement? Not a requirement. These are part of the total package. And so like many of these categories, there aren't, the requirements are sort of the lower part. The rest is just sort of a holistic approach to looking at the entire package. People who have more publications, that's going to be, you know, something in their favor. But again, we look at the whole package, so it's not a requirement. Do you need to have a number of research? Oh, that's a similar thing. Don't need it. Again, it's not a requirement. It just helps with the whole package and shows productivity. What characteristics do you look for in recommendation letters? So, and the one right below it also related to recommendation letters. So I'll deal with that. Typically, what we look for are recommendation letters from people you worked with closely. In the academic environment, for example, if you had a thesis advisor or someone you work with closely, we would expect to see the letter from that person, and some other faculty member. If you have some professional experience, it's great to see maybe one or two from the academic environment and one from a professional, so we get to sort of see a full picture. But for example, if you had an academic degree and all of yours were for professional contacts, that would probably, we would want to know why we didn't also see one from the academic space. So hopefully that helps with that balance. And then for characteristics, what we're looking for again is shared work, someone who has a sense of how you, of your background and how you approach academics and research and life in general, so they can give us their perspective and then you know, their recommendation to us. So you do want to have someone who can speak to that to some degree. Is it possible to undertake the program on a part-time basis? I would say no. Yes. We do not. Yeah, that's not something that we allow. Yeah. Is the GPA requirement out of 4.0 scale? Yes, it is. Is the TOEFL mandatory for those from countries? Marina spoke to this a little bit. It's basically the TOEFL is required unless you have attended and received a degree from a school that has English as a primary language, or or basically is in an English-speaking country like the UK or the US. Do you evaluate GDP of both undergraduate and graduate programs? GPA. Yes, we look at it. Oh, sorry. And then I will correct what I just said. The GPA, yeah. So I think with regards to the 3.5 that Marina spoke to, it would be the most recent. So it'd probably be the graduate coursework. That would be the one that we would be looking for to meet that standard. But we're going to look at both of them just as a matter of process. What kind of materials are relevant under conference attendance? So this is just going to state that you were at specific conferences, or if you took a short course while there, or what you presented if you presented something there. We're looking for basically documentation, but not official documentation, for example. Master student applied econometrics, sounds great. In the US. So again, a US-based school getting a master's from a US-based school, that should seemingly qualify. Is there a specific format for the CV? No specific format. And I would say we prefer CVs versus a resume. That tends to be the academic version of that. So a CV. What is the program's approach to team building and career development? Great question. And so I can start, and perhaps my colleagues can add here, but this is something that is basically central to what our mission is as educators and teachers and having a graduate program. And so we do this a couple ways. So we have layered mentorship. We have basically new students entering have their academic advisor and mentor on the academic side. We also pair that person up with a senior student. And Boshen may be able to speak this a little bit, but we have, because we have, students are here for 4 years through the PhD, and sometimes, 3 to 5 years is sort of the span, but we have these sort of layers of seniority and people who've been through it. And so we actually have senior student mentors for incoming students as well. And so, and then you come in as a cohort, so you have, you're gonna come in with a few other PhD students as well as some master's students. You're taking classes together. We have a specific area that is where the graduate students have desk space and office spaces, and that space is close to where we have our offices. So we have basically we rub elbows, especially now that we're actually being back on campus, and that's intentional, so that we actually get shared time, shared space. That's not just transactional in the sort of I'm your teacher and we're in a classroom. We try and cultivate multiple opportunities to interact both socially and academically. We have multiple seminars that do that, and events. So we actively encourage and have a program for funding trips to conferences and sometimes short courses, depending on how those go. And so that's part of career development. There's other things that are mentioning, but again, this is really central to what we're doing. So we do take this very, very, again, this is a core thing of what we're trying to do. Dave, Anirban, Boshen, anything to add on that one?
I think, Josh, you already covered most of the things. I just want to add, you are going to have a lot of various opportunities to get involved to different kind of research projects. And you also have opportunities to collaborate with people from other fields. For instance, you collaborate with medical doctors, different kind of clinicians. I think that is very important for your future career. It's to learn how to communicate with people from different fields and how to present your work. Yeah.
Thanks, Boshen. Appreciate that. Okay, moving on. Is attendance at virtual ISPOR considered? Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that we would want to see. Again, that's participating in a conference that's in our field, and exposures like that are always useful. Currently a student at health economics at one of the best UK universities. Great. And again, that's an English-speaking country. That's their primary language, so that should suffice as far as our work goes. I went into the sabbatical in the UK. One of our other faculties over there, or she will be soon doing one there. So we have close ties with folks in the UK. How can an applicant demonstrate critical thinking skills? It's a good question. So this type of thing shows up in somewhat in the sort of written package, sometimes in the recommendations that we get. That's one of the sources that we can see that someone speaks to someone's critical thinking skills. You know, this is a hard one to actually see a number on a page and say this person has critical thinking skills. So we see some of it in a personal statement in terms of how you're approaching things, the recommendations, and then through our discussions with an individual. That tends to be how we get at that type of a thing, talking to us, telling us how you think through a problem or how you dealt with a situation. That is what we try and sort of bring to bear to understand an applicant's critical thinking skills. Does the issue date of transcripts need to be recent? Not necessarily. You know, this is just, you're just going to be submitting the transcripts you have, and we'll evaluate from there. I mean, some people, they went to school, then they went out and they did other related research work, and now they're coming back to school, and that's part of the trajectory of some individuals.
Josh, want me to take a few?
Sure.
Take a breather. But yeah, probably help. I might need help with some of these. And
All
Marina,
right,
you're not going to veto Josh's answer, right? That was good, right?
Oh, yeah, that was correct.
Sulaco's asking again about the pharmacists with public health and ID background, but no health economics. Josh, I thought you answered that. I can't tell you what percentage chances, but you know, I think we do look, you know, if you just have clinical training, you don't have any experience at all in research and in population health sciences and things like that, it's not quite as competitive. So we love the clinical background, but you do, you know, to be competitive, somebody who's got some experience in some quantitative training or some kind of research is very helpful. Question about GPAs. Yes, some universities have different scales, and then those are usually explained on the transcripts. If not, then just make sure you point it out in your letter that scale was different. I don't know, Marina or Josh, if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I do. So you can go ahead and just like enter on your application, like for your GPA, you can enter it just how it's listed on your transcript, and then either myself will evaluate it and convert to a 4.0 scale, or I will ask the graduate school to do it for me. So don't worry about like converting it to a 4.0. If you want to, like there's resources such as WES is a great resource for converting GPAs, but we're able to do it ourselves also. And then we would just update it, and I'd make a note like converted from this grading scale, etc.
Okay, and Marina.
Also, a 4.5 is a nice GPA on a 4-point scale.
So Marina put a link to the grad school memo about English proficiency in the chat. Goodwin asks about, do you need to contact a potential advisor before applying? Absolutely not. Don't worry about that. More stuff about TOEFL. Should you include a proposal in your application? No need for any kind of, if you mean like research proposal or anything, or dissertation ideas, absolutely not. We do like to hear like, what are you passionate about? What do you like? What drew you to this field? So that's the kind of thing that's good to talk about. So clear collaboration with other schools at University of Washington. Yes, extremely high. Health services, epidemiology, biostatistics, population sciences, global health. Maybe not as much with business and law, I don't think. Maybe a little bit. That'd be my short answer there. UW's highly collaborative, and all those places I just mentioned are within a 5 or 10 minute walk of our offices.
And even outside of the UW to other local cancer institute, stuff like that.
And how are research discussions encouraged among students? Well, we have these seminars, you share the graduate student room, you have a mentor assigned to you. And so, just to be honest with you, in graduate school, you learn a lot from your students, other students, the people you study with, but also some more senior students. So that's something that does happen, and we make sure that we encourage that. Do you take racial and ethnic diversity into consideration when choosing your student body? I think just in general, I think diversity adds to the educational experience. So that is one of the goals. And I don't know, Josh, Marina, if you want to add anything specific to that.
No, I think that's good. There are specific sort of statewide criteria about how specifically it can be used. What I would say is that we go out of our way to make our environment inclusive and our admissions process inclusive, to allow people to articulate their different diversity, whatever they bring to the table. And it's our expressed interest in trying to create the most sort of diverse graduate program that we can. And we do that by allowing, by having sort of our public statements and our outreach and what we ask for from students, to give them the opportunity to tell us all the ways that they think they can contribute to that diverse environment. And so, that's good.
We've got like 15 more questions.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I can stay past too, so I can keep working through these if you guys want to, and some of you guys need to drop off, that's fine, but let's just keep going.
Yeah.
Farasia asks about like who's hiring, so I can figure out who has interest. All faculty, we don't really hire, like it's all the faculty kind of are open to working with graduate students kind of at all times. So you should feel free to look through all the faculty. There's nobody that's kind of like, no, I'm not taking students. Satar, I love this one. I do love publishing, so that's great. We do too. So can you work on a paper independently or should be under supervision of a faculty member? You know, it just depends. If you're working on a project that's like with another professor outside of our program and stuff, that's fine. I think if you're working on a paper outside, completely outside of the university, I would recommend you talk to your advisor and just so you're like, well, how much time are you spending on that? If someone from outside the university, for instance, is like, oh, you got to spend 20 hours a week working on this paper, that could be a problem. So it's really just about balancing commitments, I would say. Kanmu asks about work-life balance supported in the program. You know, that's something that is very important. And we think that successful students are, and faculty are ones that have a good balance. And I think it's something that all people struggle with, but we very much encourage students to take breaks, to go visit family. Boshin, I'm going to turn to you to chime in, even though I think sometimes you work too much, but go ahead.
Yeah, like we always be able to, always able to find extra time for those non-academic activities. And many of us like to explore the restaurants in the Seattle, and there are tons of like outdoor activities in Seattle, like both over the summer and the winter actually. Yeah, so pretty good work-life balance.
Great, thanks. And again, I think Josh, Honorable Marina is okay. We just kind of keep going. And if someone has to drop off on the faculty end or those of you attending, that's fine, but we'll just do our best to go through these. There's quite a few, so.
I can stay a little bit longer.
Okay, so any research experience count? I would say research experience in kind of population health sciences, HEOR, epidemiology, statistics, health, things like that. Lab-based research, it doesn't carry as much weight, but if you published a paper out of that and wrote a paper, that does carry some weight. So it kind of gives you a sense of that, I hope. It's a good question. It's a little complex. Next question is talking about, you know, my background, my GPA, my training, you know, what are my chances? You know, we can't say what your chances are. It depends on the applicant pool and a lot of different things. Generally, we're looking for people that have both good quantitative skills and good communication skills and some experience in health, right? So we have to look at all those things together and look at the whole applicant pool as a whole. Okay, another question. First degree econ, then master's in business administration. Do you think I'm a good fit to apply? Well, I think about what I just said. You know, can you demonstrate good quantitative skills in that kind of health population sciences, good communication, writing skills, experience in health economics or outcomes research of some kind? That's what we're looking for. Shay had to, it looks like she had to run, which is great. Oh, we're making some progress here. Where do alumni usually work? A variety of places. industry, academia, consulting firms. Are you skimming through there? Is that Marina? You're driving, looking? Yeah.
That's me, yeah.
There's a nice example of the different places that folks go. I don't know, Josh or Anirban or Boshin, if you want to add to that at all.
No, I mean, as I said in my, the start of the seminar, that about 1/3 of our students go to academia, 1/3 to industry, and 1/3 to other research organizations. And so it's a mix of things.
Yeah, faculty to student ratio. I haven't calculated it offhand, but to give you a sense, like the average number of graduate students that a faculty member has, I don't know, what do you guys think? It's about 4 or 5, like of PhD and masters combined?
Yeah, combined would be probably 4.
Yeah, so it's not that high. It's, a few PhDs and maybe 1 or 2 MS at the most. So it's a very nice ratio. It's a small program.
Yeah, we have what, 20 usually between 20 to 25 students, and we have what, around 7 faculty. So
7 core
11,
faculty.
7 core faculty, yes, and then there's adjunct
yeah.
affiliate and etc.
Yeah. All right. I see some of you got to drop off. Fine, no problem. Kunwu had a question about coding or quantitative skills. We're not real worried about coding. It's something that although Anirban loves to code, he might say something different, but that is stuff you can learn here. It's nice to have coming in, but more importantly, kind of that, the quantitative skill of being able, having some decent math skills or some kind of statistics skills, because some of the courses, the epidemiology, the biostat, et cetera, that does require a pretty strong quantitative skill. I don't know, Anirban, if you wanted to.
No, I think what you said is good. Coding is just it will obviously work in favor for you, but it's not really what we are looking for. There are a lot of introductory coding courses on campus that many PhD students come in and take an intro to R or intro to Stata here as they come along.
Yeah.
I also want to add that you have to take like required courses, but the good thing is you also have sort of the freedom to choose the course that's best fit for you. For instance, there are 2 sets of biostatistics courses, and if you feel like one is more basic, one is more advanced. If you have less experience with biostatistics, you can take the basic one, and you have more experience, you can take the more advanced one. So you can find a course that best fit for you.
Yeah.
I
think that's all the questions.
You guys might have set a record for most questions ever.
Which is great. That's what this is about.
Yeah, it's awesome. Okay, well, great. I think, we're just a few minutes over time, but please contact us if you have any additional questions. You can contact me or Anirban, who's chairing the admissions committee this year. And thank you. We look forward to receiving your applications December 15th.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.